So to cut our half a hole, we've got a round bottom, a pretty round cutter. I'm going to attack it like that. We can go in 5 or 6 mil in depth, so that when the two halves go together, we've got a pretty much a 10mm hole, maybe a slightly oval hole, but enough for our luff rope of our sail to slide up and down without too much bothering. So we've got our bit securing our router. What we need to do then is to adjust the depth. To about there, and then adjust our fence to give us the right amount in from the edge. And if we just use that as a guide, route a bit into there, we can see that the fence needs to come back a little. So about there. And so we'll just make a little trial cut on the end of our piece of timber and make sure it's doing what we want it to. That's pretty good for positioning that way. Whether it's quite deep enough, if we have a straight edge across there, yeah, it's about 6mm, so that should be fine. So now it's just a case of running that cut all the way up through. Just have to make sure the edge of the timber is overhanging the bench because of the depth of the fence. We don't want that to pick up on the edge of the bench and either lift the router or move it away from where we're hoping to cut. So that's one half of our spar. If we cut a similar groove in this piece, and I'll have to turn that around to get the edge we want overhanging the bench. Pair it up with our other one. What we don't want is when our sail is in there for it to be caught on any part of the slot or the groove. Although that's not clamped together tightly, that's running fairly free there. But I think just looking at it, I'd like a nice circular slot rather than a not quite deep enough circular slot. So I'll just adjust the router another millimetre or so, and then we'll run through there again. It's better to have to cut it a little bit deeper than to cut it too deep the first time and not be able to do anything about it. And this is obviously, when I machine the others now, the router will be set up just right. We shouldn't have to even measure what we're doing. We can just run the router through and end up with exactly what we want. That should give us a better looking section at the end. And if I just plane off a little bit there. Should now be able to see that that's a much better looking hole at the end of our spar. Sail will run up and down there without any problem at all. So the next job really is to glue it all together. Now, it's good to have something straight and flat to glue it down to, because at least then we can hope to get it nice and true. And I've got a piece of timber that I've planed flat previously. This is just a piece of joinery quality 4x2, just from a local timber yard. And I've used this quite often. It has got a slight bit of a twist in it, but that's not really going to affect us too much. I've planed the top dead flat and square. It's still looking pretty good. And I just use that to clamp things like this down to try and keep them as straight as we possibly can. And so what we're after is keeping these front edges in line so that then our groove stays in line and stays its proper shape. So we're just going to clamp it together like that. We've got a visual touch on the front there, so we can see what's going on to keep them in line. I'll find a bit of batten to go on the top so that our clamps don't mark our spar. The other side of the clamp obviously is going to be underneath our bit of 4x2. So we've got our clamping jig, we've got our spar that we're going to glue together, we've got some battening to go on top. Before we start messing around with glue and stuff, what we really want to do is get a load of clamps sorted out, get them opened out to approximately the width of our job, so that we can just pick the clamps up, do them up. I'm using some quick drying glue so that we can glue the others up today as well. So we want to be fairly rapid in our clamping. So it's best to get everything prepared first, get the clamps ready. So that's what we'll do.